All right, hello everybody. Welcome to DDOCast episode 517. I am filling in for Patrick, who's probably doing something theater related this weekend, or Little League related. I know he's also an extremely busy dude, so for some reason he decided to let me back onto the show. I am in charge. I am a god. Nice. We're just going to talk about a little bit about the latest news, sales, chronicle stuff, whatever comes to mind. Hopefully we won't get in trouble when I get back to work on Monday, and when you get back to work soon. Isn't that right, Lynnabel?
No, yes. I have to actually move in between now and then, so I could just die. It's so awful. I have to move. I have so much nonsense. Do you know how many swords I have? Do you know how you can't mail swords through the mail? I have to what? I have to go
You need a
somewhere.
U-Haul truck just for swords. It'll be very Mad Max. They'll all be sticking out in the back.
It's
pretty rad.
Such a dumb story. Like, I was at Gen Con and they're like, "Hey, do you want a copy of Frostborn? Like, it's made of steel. Do you want one?" And I was like, "Yes." No. Why? Absolutely, and it's the most inconvenient object I've ever owned in my entire life.
You know the most inconvenient object I ever owned? I had a Fender Rhodes, like an actual awesome 1974 and 1977 Fender Rhodes. I had two of them, and they are amazing keyboards, kind of like the Doors and all that sort of thing. However, they weigh about 200 pounds each. And trying to move them to gigs, going up the stairs of bars and all that sort of thing was a challenge, shall we say. But it was a fun challenge. But then when I finally moved actually out to Turbine, I was like, you know what I'm not bringing with me? 500 pounds of keyboard. So I finally got rid of all those poor Fender Rhodes. And every now and then I think of them fondly. So we probably could announce, right? That you're...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, to the surprise of literally no one. It only took 4 internships, but we got there.
You are going to be working for Standing Stone Games for the DDO
yes.
team.
Yes.
Congratulations.
And when do you start to actually... When do you have to be here? It's soon,
that is
right?
Great. That's an excellent question. This and many more excellent questions will be answered in the near future.
Nice. In true Standing Stone Games fashion, it's like, well, technically you should probably be in by about this time. But,
I think I start in this month. It's this month. I think I took a week off. My graduation is on Friday.
Oh, nice. Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a real surprise, is the fact that I actually graduated. I think I start the 21st.
Okay, cool.
Maybe.
So just in time for the Memorial Day weekend, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So. Also with me here, I know we've been talking a little bit to Lynnabel here, but I do want to welcome Sahba Jade to the show as well. Welcome, Sahba.
Hi.
I don't know that I have ever individually had you on the show. Every time I've ever chatted with you, it's been with the Damsels of DDO.
Oh, I don't know.
I think.
I usually hang out with those guys, so probably.
And you can find out more at damselsofddo.com. I am going to assume everyone on DDOcast knows about the Damsels of DDO. But if you don't, 1, you're an idiot. No, 2, if you don't, no, I'm kidding. But Lessa, Sahba Jade, and Mythri Inferno, and you stream on DDO Stream I'm East Coast, so let's say every Saturday morning at 2 a.m. Eastern, and then you record your post-show sort of podcast discussion Sunday at 2 a.m. Eastern, and that one is on twitch.tv/Lessa101. So you do the questing on DDO Stream and then the show on Lessa101, and you are, well, certainly this is the year you're going to hit episode 100.
I think so. We're 80-something now. It seems like we've been 80s for a while now, though.
Yeah. Well, the 80s never really goes away, so...
Okay, now I'm thinking Ready Player One, but okay.
Right.
I hear it's pretty darn bad. I hear it's a bad movie.
I thought it was all right. Whatever. It was fine.
Infinity War was so good. Infinity War was awesome.
This is not the Damsels. We are not only theoretically talking about DDO. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
Actually, let's just talk about Avengers the whole time. Spoiler alert, we're going to go plot by plot. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We're not doing that either. I actually haven't seen it, but everyone knows. Well, not everybody. Some people may know. I am actually not much of a Marvel movie fan. Yes, Samus Garobo, you know it's true. Iron Man sucked. No, I'm kidding. They're fine. Everyone likes them, except for me. We're not going to get into that.
Do you like DC or just not?
I just find the films kind of dull.
Superheroes.
Yeah, nobody likes DC. Nobody really likes DC's movies are terrible.
They're perfectly good commercial films. We put it that way.
I saw Suicide Squad for free, and I feel cheated. Like,
I was there. I think I know.
Sure, you were there.
Hey, it's true. We used to work for Warner Brothers. Every Warner Brothers film is fantastic because our bonuses, the old Turbine bonuses, were partially dependent on their success. So every movie was utterly fantastic, and everyone should see it 5 times. So, all right, let's get to DDO stuff. We have introduced our guests here, Lynnabel and Sahba Jade. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Our screenshot of the week, which I actually have queued up here. Okay, so in case you don't know, this is going to be a very casual show. So I really don't know what I'm doing. All right. Our screenshot of the week here. Even dogs learn in the Collegium of the 12 in our 365th DDO screenshot of the week. I want to thank Condor Draco for sending in this week's screenshot. Every now and then I get a screenshot where it's like, well, clearly that's this week's winner. And that was kind of this one because it's a dog reading a book. So that's why it won this week. I would say that we have been kind of on a low swing of getting entries. And it's a pretty easy way to get 500 DDO points, so you should mail in your screenshots. Provided they're not 800 by 600 and full of UI elements, there's a pretty good chance they will be considered. And you can just email it to...
thousands?
No, I've actually, in recent weeks, I've had somewhere I've had like 4 entries. And that
I should enter.
Yeah, I know, that's not many. So that means if you were number 5, you'd have a 20% chance of winning. I think that's how it works. So, anyway, send them in, DDO@standingstonegames.com. Just kind of let me know it's okay to use them on DDO.com and tell me a little bit about the screenshot so I can use it. All right, we'd like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from the website, DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and they've been with DDOcast since the very start, and have always done a really good job for us. The shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend. You can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or the website, DDOcast.com. All right, so let us start with a little bit of the news, and unlike Patrick, my news is basically a spew of copy and pasting things. So I have to kind of ease my way into the topic, but our topic is going to be loot focused this time around because we had some members of the DDO dev team spill loot secrets. Someone had mentioned that they got their first gold roll since the changes. For those of you who don't know, we redid the daily dice tables for both silver and gold, and we have new potions and new pets, new creature companions. Actually, you can even get a +8 tome in there now. And some other cool stuff, too. But Aylin, we noticed that someone got a turquoise spiral robe and was like, wait a second, that's one of the old armor kits. How's come that's now been cosmeticified to fit into a cosmetic slot? And the answer to that is yes. It didn't make it into the notes because I didn't actually know that it had happened. I had a list of things that were added to Daily Dice, and it was not on the list. However, it did get added really kind of in the chaos of the last few hours of merging change lists. And I'm sure you know nothing about that, Lynnabel. It's never the case that change lists slip through the cracks and don't end up being communicated to the person putting together the release notes.
Never once has that ever happened in all of software.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what happened. So we do actually have some of the new armor or old armor appearance kits that are now cosmetic slotified in Daily Dice. So I bet Mithri is going to be happy about that from the Damsels of DDO.
She gets lousy rolls though, so I think you guys need to give her a little boost for her rolls.
Yeah, no, that's maybe, right?
I wish we could do that.
Yeah.
I really wish we could weight dice rolls, because in my head, like, you know, like the optionals that we have to keep turning off because people keep botting them.
Yeah.
And then it just ruins the fun for everybody.
Yep.
What if instead of giving it 0 and then bonus XP, it just said, like, now you get +5 to your name loot at the end, and then that fixes the problem, but we don't. And also, I would absolutely have certain people in my guild get less loot. That would be fantastic. I have a list.
Nice.
How dare they?
All right, someone's saying I'm still kind of quiet, so I'm going to jack up my microphone a little bit. We were actually talking not that long ago here, Lynnabel, that you might get a new microphone, and I kind of need to get a new microphone too.
Yeah, I'm using a webcam as my microphone right now, so the quality is pretty F tier.
Yeah.
Pretty thumbs down.
All right, let me do the mic boost here. That should hopefully improve things a little bit. But if not, well, whatever.
I can't believe I didn't accidentally talk about drop rates before Still Star gave up.
Well, you know, we actually are going to get to that a little bit, because he did spill some beans there. So, all right, let me do one quick
all the beans. These are all the beans that I had.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like, fortunately, Skype has changed kind of its settings here, so it's a little more difficult to, I think it's auto-detecting things, and that's what's the problem. But
I could just sign an ASL now.
Yeah, right, that's pretty cool.
You don't even need the video or the audio.
Nice.
I can teach you guys some ASL right here. I prepared this, okay? It's really easy
to
follow
no
along.
ASL swear words.
No, it's going to be great.
Okay,
This is
okay.
just my, and then parents, and then you say got a divorce. It's perfect.
Oh, God. That's a good one. All right, so we do have more. Here's the good thing, not just about that these cosmetics have been added to Daily Dice, but we're going to have more of them put in over time. Kintani, who does a lot of the cosmetic work in DDO, has actually got a backlog of things to kind of get QA'd and checked in and all that sort of thing. And assuming that happens, we're actually going to get a whole bunch of those old armor kits back into the cosmetic tables again, which I know has been kind of a several years long suggestion on the community, so that should be real cool. The big thing, of course, is Alien We was like, that's great, but I just want to buy the thing. I don't want to have to roll on the Daily Dice tables for it. So we had actually talked to Tolero about that this week, and there's a pretty good chance that this stuff will be coming in the near future to the DDO store. It's probably going to roll out first to Daily Dice and then go to the DDO store as well, as we rotate things in and out of the Daily Dice tables. And I would also add that that is actually one of our, I guess, things we're going to be doing is we realize that generally, you know, Daily Dice is like a daily login bonus, and then people can opt to, you know, spend some shards on it if they want to, but it is really a daily login bonus and a gold table for VIP. And when you let it get kind of stale, we've year plus without actually putting anything new in it. So we're going to be kind of trying to be a little bit better about that, bringing in some of the new items into Daily Dice, really this year and into the future. I don't know if we're going to hit quarterly, but it might be something close to that. Also, someone had pointed out on the forums an excellent little tip that if you check the Daily Dice gold roll categories, both rare items and ultra rare items include a bonus cosmetic or pet every time. The cosmetics are all the new bound to account cosmetic slot type. You can also get the thinking cap in there. And
one I really want.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. And so that's really kind of a nice way to do that. Now, over on the Lord of the Rings side, we're actually working to get some transparency out on their Hobbit presence, and they have more traditional kind of MMO style loot boxes. And we have an effort underway to add some transparency to that. When we get done with that, there's a pretty good chance we'll do something similar for Daily Dice. We're not going to give exact percentages on drop rates, I don't think, but we are going to say, hey, here's some of the stuff you can get. That serves two purposes. One, it lets people who are just like, well, just tell me what I could win, right? And so then it provides some transparency there. But the other thing it does is it's kind of a minor marketing promo thing, because it's like, hey, look at the cool new stuff, right? So it kind of serves two purposes there, and that's going to be happening in the relatively near future.
So you're not going to tell me what my chance of getting a +8 tome are?
Low. Less low on the gold table. But it's in the tomes category, and it's the top of the tomes category. So if you roll daily dice and you get one of the tomes, it'll roll again on the tome table. And then if you roll good on that, you get a daily dice. So the way daily dice works is there's basically, if you think of spreadsheets, there are like multiple loot spreadsheets. And so you go from one table and you roll the die, and under a certain percentage, it's like, hey, now go to the super rare. Now go to the super rare. So you can actually sort of multi-jackpot your way, even all the way theoretically, from the silver table to the top of the gold table, although the odds are infinitesimally small for that. But theoretically you can, so, yeah.
It's all DDO. It's just imagine a spreadsheet, just behind the scenes, just spreadsheets.
I remember I was actually surprised when I first got hired back in 2010, and I was like, so how do you keep track of all the loot, right? I mean, do you have like a software? They're like, nope, we just have this big XML file. Yeah.
It's awful.
So, it's true. Yeah.
Oh man. I actually learned one really cool Microsoft Excel macro tip. That's the one thing I learned this semester that's going to help me at my work. Nice.
Well, you want to share it, or do you need to go to college for it?
Oh, it's proprietary Turbine official knowledge. It's the downfill formula.
Oh, okay, nice.
I don't remember it. I had wrote this down. I don't remember. College is really weird.
All right. So before we get to a little bit more loot, I did want to call out, we have an unfortunate situation that we need to call out the word about, and that is in the next couple of weeks here, we're having a temporary support hours change. This is being done because we're bringing in new support staff, new in-game GMs, to replace some of the older GMs and current GMs that we had up until recently. So because we need to train these completely new employees up from scratch, they have to work during really kind of normal business hours that their managers are working. And that means just for the next couple of weeks, our support hours as of May 6th are going to be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday through Sunday is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is Eastern Daylight Time. We know that that's not great for people who, say, run into a raid issue or something like that on a, Saturday night, Thursday night, that kind of thing. But this is temporary while we train up the new employees, and hopefully the goal here is to have much higher quality GMs here in the relatively near future. So, all right, so let's get back to loot. We had a big thread on the forums, which is basically talking a little bit about the loot boosts that are in Daily Dice, and they wanted to get some information. So, wouldn't you know it, Steel Star actually dropped some knowledge bombs. So, the player Virzane suggested on the Elixir Discovery items. The Elixir Discovery is the new item in Daily Dice that actually increased your chance of getting named loot. It boosts the chance of getting named loot from chests that ordinarily contains named loot by insert number here. I believe it go up to 15%. The timer for this effect pauses when you are in public areas or logged out. It does stack with guild buffs. Steel Star answers the question, does named loot include things like hair dye, augments, tomes? Generally, the answer to that is no. So those things go on kind of a separate roll table than the named loot. Named loot tends to have its own thing. So what can you say about that a little bit, Lynnabel? Because you've actually had to make some of the named loot. It's sort of assigned, like on a D, if I recall correctly, sort of a D100 percentage, and you put the loot into the dungeon. And it's like, well, 20% this, 20% this, 20% this, 20% this, 20% this, and then you have your 100% for the die roll.
So I was told that so basically each chest has its like normal loot part of it, and that's like, do you get scrolls, yes or no? Do you get platinum and how much, yes or no? And then there's like a spot in it that goes for the named loot table. And I was told specifically to never ever touch anything in each chest but the named loot thing, because those are all very, very global, and don't ever do that. And I didn't do that, so I successfully didn't touch that. Just
nice.
great.
But it is generally the way it goes in terms of the named loot. It's like you'll have a percentage to get a named loot drop, and it depends. It scales by difficulty and all that. And I think we may even have a little more info later on. But in general, once you say yes, you get named loot, how it determines which specific piece is each thing is assigned generally an equal percentage on the named loot table, with a few exceptions like, say, Bladed Jack Gibbers and some of the ultra rare kind of chaser items, in which case those are given a smaller percentage chance.
Yeah, those are all done in their own special way. But like for most named items, like it's a D100 roll. It's the same as a treasure table you find in like the Dungeon Master's Guide, where like a player will roll a D100. So we weight it as evenly as we can. So sometimes things are off by like one die. Like we can't actually like divide 100 by 17 equally, you know?
Yeah, right.
But they're as even as you could possibly get it. And I was told to say the best items have the most chance. Like, so if it's off by 1%, then the thing that I would consider the best universally, just give it the 1%.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, I've always thought that the drop rates are really generous, and then players would be like, "You've been on the inside. What's this deep secret?" And I'm like, "You wouldn't actually believe me if I
know,
like,
right? It's true.
Would never.
That's the thing about random percentages, right? You know, you can get lucky or you can get unlucky, and that's just
like,
the way it goes.
Like tomes, like people are like, "Oh wow, I can't believe +8s drop. Look at all the +8s I've gotten." I'm like, that's much too high. We shouldn't be giving those out. That's just right.
You know, I've noticed that too. I think I think they may have screwed up the +8 tome table, but we'll see about that. Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, I found 3 in Legendary Heart." I'm like, "Good for you." And I'm like, "Oh, jeez."
All right, so does named loot include things like hair dye, augments, tomes, etc.? Generally, no. There are a few raids with unique tome tables. These are part of the named loot tables. In those raids, finding those would be affected by an elixir discovery. One in particular I know is Defiler of Just, I believe, has got a tome in its named loot table. But for the most part, the answer is no, with a few exceptions. And to be honest, that tends to be a recurring theme in DDO is that you figure you've got 12 years and multiple, loot devs and things like that working on things over the years. So it's not 100% consistent throughout the entire system. There are times where things don't play by the rules, but in general, these are the rules. All right, so here's an asked: if augments, tomes, and the like are not on the loot tables, then what, if any, loot modifiers affect getting these? Nothing here, Steel Star writes, affects your chances of getting these in loot, but see below about augments. And I will talk about that. Speaking of masterwork and wondrous items, are those named items, would your chance of getting that be affected by these new loot potions? He says, they are not named items, although in certain parts of Wayloon and the Stormhorns, they may be part of the named loot table. That's not entirely certain, though. I think that is the case, though, because they'll kind of operate on their own weird thing.
But they're named items that they drop in the tables as like the blank, and then they're the random rolls or compound effects that are stuck into them in treasure tables, and they're just so much special little nonsense that they don't interact with kind of crafting, and they're not named items for like sentient weapons, and we just.
And that's why, that's why, is because they're basically a special snowflake in some ways, and getting them to work would be basically redesigning the entire loot system for that pack from the ground up.
Who would have time to do that? Who would just sit down and fix Wayloon? Not me. Can I get an intern? Is that like a thing? Can I request one now?
I don't know. That's a good question. We'll have to look at that. Yeah.
So great.
Steel Star does write, they have better than usual effects for their treasure tier, though. I believe there's still some variation, so it's not necessarily the maximum possible. So, a Jewel of Fortune should make a level 6 chest give level 8 loot? No. I've actually explained this in the past, but just to reiterate, Steel Star writes, there are die rolls involved, so it does not necessarily mean you'll get minimum level 8 loot 100% of the time. just that you are pulling from the treasure tables as if it were a level 8 chest. So things like the Jewels of Fortune and the enhancements that you can get to boost your loot, like the Dragon Mark. Actually, that's the feat then. If it says +2 loot, that increases the level of the chest, not the level of the items. Now, there is some generality where a level 5 chest tries to give you loot around level 5, but sometimes it's within a range, right? So it's not only going to be level 5 loot, it could also be level 4 or whatever it's set to be. And so it'll improve the loot of the chest, but it won't improve, say, necessarily the minimum level of the items. For named items like a jeweled cloak that have different level versions, one could get a level 14 jeweled cloak running a level 12 quest. Verzane asks. Steelstar says no. That is an aspect of the named loot table and not affected by chest level. How about, okay, here's the augment thing. Verzane asks, a level 8 augment running a level 6 quest. Steelstar writes, I believe you could, because Jewels of Fortune affect chest level. They do impact what you get when you roll on the table. For instance, when augments come up in loot, they tend to be about the appropriate level for the chest they're found in. So if the chest level is higher, augments you find are also more likely to be higher level. Trying to figure out what that's actually about. Oh, the Treasure Hunter Elixir, which actually adds, let's say, +15 to your treasure roll, does improve, the roll you get. So if theoretically on the treasure table you'd roll an 80 and you have a +15, it would look up what was there for 95. So that's for non-named items, but the effects on that random loot are near the best for that random item. Steelstar writes, correct, it gives you better rolls for the effects on random loot. You're more likely to get better and stronger effects. It does not affect anything regarding the named loot table. So the Treasure Hunter's elixirs generally do not improve your chances of named loot, but they do get you better loot. And theoretically they might, right? I mean, there might be a few dungeons in there, I suspect, but for the most part, no. Yeah.
The power levels on the Wayloon and Stormhome's items are determined by the difficulty. Like it's a separate die roll in the named loot title, in the named loot thing.
Okay.
And those are just, I don't know, or something.
What, you don't want to be the loot dev? Just think, all that stuff you have to know, and then no matter what you do, it's still going to be bad. So,
I came and visited, and Steelstar was like, "You're back," and I'm like, "Not for another month." He's like, "No." Yeah, no, it's I'm excited. Who would just do that? Sit there and fix all of the old items in the game? I don't have time for that anymore. Not me.
Nice. Also, just finally, Verzane says, so none of these above buffs provide a better chance at getting named items having mythic bonuses or Reaper bonuses. Is that correct? And Steelstar says correct. I understand that that's basically a separate percentage chance that's rolled in terms of whether it gets a mythic or Reaper boost.
Yeah. If you roll high enough on the which item do you get the Reaper or mythic, which is a different goal.
Yep. Same also, speaking of mythic or Reaper bonuses, Treasure Hunter elixirs and those Hunter bonus weekends do not increase the odds of mythic or Reaper bonuses too. Elixirs of Discovery, however, will increase your likelihood of pulling mythic Reaper items in general as you are reaching the named loot item table more often and generating more named items than usual, thus having more chances at getting those effects. So while it doesn't improve the straight percentage, it's really just kind of an increase by quantity rather than quality, so to speak. You're getting more named loot, so because you're getting more, over time you'll have a better chance to get Mythic and Reaper stuff. Steelstar also just basically said, I personally, Cordovan, am wrong on something that was quoted in the DDO wiki. So, yeah. I had thought, so Treasure Hunter elixirs can have tomes and certain store items have a higher probability to drop. I had said that for the wiki. I still think that may be true, because there are certain store items, right? Because if the store item table is going to be rolled on, let's say, 100. And so theoretically, if you had a treasure hunter's elixir that would add 15, I think that's the chance, right? I think there's certain times where it, like, sort of the store item thing is at the top of the list rather than a percentage. But I could be wrong about that.
I don't know. That's another thing I was told not to touch, so I didn't even look at it.
Yeah. Anyway,
like...
I'm going to trust Steel Star over me. So if Steel Star says I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong. But I do think that I do seem to recall there may be in certain things a chance. Okay, so here's the other piece. Chai asked in that same thread, this increased chance to load the named item table still doesn't necessarily mean getting the item you want has an equal chance. Blah, blah, blah. He says, are the named loot tables more like this? Item 1, 20%, item 2, 20%, item 3, 20%, etc., etc., or is it more like item 1, 2%, item 2, 8%, item 3, 17%, etc., etc.? So, Steel Star writes, most tables are closest to the first list you posted, basically an equal weighting among all the named items, give or take a few percentage points for tables with a number of items that don't divide nicely up to 100, like we had said a little bit ago. A few tables have significantly rare items that aren't evenly weighted, like Jack Jibber's Blade or raids with unique tome tables. Those are separate from the random loot tome table. Oh, see? I just answered my own question, because if Steel Star says there is a random loot tome table, then yes, Treasure Hunter's Elixir would improve your chances of getting a tome from that table.
I think it's a myth. I found a whole bunch of tomes, but they just seem like some sort of mirage.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the truth is, how much do I personally like you? I've got a knob that's based on characters. There's like a wall of character names, and I just turn up and down that knob, based on whether or not I like you. So Sahba, clear as mud, huh?
Yes.
What are some of the big questions you've got about loot?
You're asking the wrong person. I just go with what I get is what I get.
Nice. I tend to be the same
way,
way,
and I work
right?
with it.
Yep. I recognize that video games with random loot tables means I may get lucky, like the time I pulled a Jack Jibber's Blade for the first time I ran the quest on Wayfinder on Epic Hard. Very first time I ever got Jibber's Blade on Wayfinder.
Took me 48 runs.
Yeah, I know.
40.
I've run more than that, and I don't have one yet.
But then there are times like the trinket thing in the desert. What's that thing again?
Oh, the Ring of Spellstorming.
Yeah, Ring of Spellstorming. Well, actually, that's not it, but that's a good example. I've never pulled a Ring of Spellstorming in 12 years. But,
trinket is like the pouch of jerky, the wolf whistle?
Yeah.
One of those?
Yeah. So there are times where you get lucky and times you just consistently get unlucky.
If I could clarify something, though. So quite a while ago, like years ago, the controversy around Temple of Elemental Evils drop rates, now that I'm allowed to talk about drop rates, that's something I've been wanting to say for 2 years. The often quoted 1% per item drop rate is actually because there are so many different versions of the base crafted items, and they're all in one table, that yes, it's very small. You're going to get the exact crafted blank that you want, but the drop rates of getting an item period match the drop rates of the updates before and after it. The Temple of Elemental drop rates are exactly the same as every other quest. The often quoted low percent is because there's just a lot of different variations with the crafting blanks. So
that's actually kind of a good philosophical point, though, Sahba, that you raised, which is like we've gone into. There are players out there who they want to know the odds. They frankly want to see these spreadsheets, and be able to calculate things. And then there are folks who maybe perhaps like yourself is like, I play this game to have fun. I hit a chest. It's not fun if I just know that I hit a certain number based on percentages. It's like, hey, I got cool loot. So I guess ultimately is that more what you are about? It's just like, this is cool, this is fun, and every now and then I'm going to get it?
Yes, because even if you know the odds, that doesn't mean you're going to get it. You can run it, like Even says she's run it hundreds of times and has one Jibber's Blade. I mean, even if it's a 1% chance, you might not be the one with the 1% chance, because it, evens out to a mean. So Somebody else might have gotten on their first chance. I'm not naming names, but
somebody.
So because you got it on your first chance and there's only a 1% chance, somebody else has to get it on their 199th, right?
Right. And it wasn't just my first try. It was my first try on Epic Hard of all things, which is even
on Wayfinder.
More insane. Which is
on
even more
Wayfinder.
insane. Yeah, I literally the chance that well, maybe not literally, but figuratively, I believe the chance was actually less than like 0.01% of me actually having that happen to me. But it did happen. Because even afterwards, I remember Nobob was like, I can't believe you actually pulled that. Do you have any idea what the odds of you doing that are? I was like, no. He quoted me a number, which was pretty insane. So, yep. So, Sahba, if you had an API and you could actually look into DDO's loot tables and figure out all the info, would you want to?
As an academic thing, sure, but for playing for fun, no.
All right.
I just want it to be a surprise and be really excited when I get it.
Now let me ask you this question then. Lynnabel, if you could see the rolls taking place, almost like, say, a slot machine, where you saw the entire DM table and did the roll and saw it roll, would you want that?
No, because it's individual rolls of 100. If you're close to it, each individual successful roll doesn't actually have any of the previous information. Like, they would just make you feel bad. Like, it wouldn't change anything. It would just make you feel worse. Like, look how close you were. Too bad though. Like,
yeah.
you know, like
it would remove the theory that we drop named loot over time after a pack comes out, which has been one of the longest standing rumors that's happened.
Love that rumor.
It's just
rumor.
Not true. I mean, it's just not true. But, you know.
My favorite rumor, because it's got two parts. One is that loot drop rates go up over time. Two is that loot drop rates go down over time. People believe both at the same time. It's a fantastic rumor.
Yeah.
It's my favorite rumor.
Nice. All right. So, anyone want to mention anything else about kind of loot and drop rates and things like that before we move on to the next section of the show?
Sure. For me, dial up the loot rate the next time I go into Two-Toed Tobias, please, because Jack Jibbers.
So here's the thing, though, about Jack Jibbers. If everybody had one, do you have any? I would totally unbalance the game. So that's why it's got that, because I think there's a realization that people are going to be like, you know what? Fine, I don't even want to play Jack Jibbers anymore, and that's going to keep their numbers artificially low. Because otherwise, you would be in a situation where dying didn't matter, dying twice might matter. But dying once would never matter, because everyone would just have a Jack Jibbers.
Right. Well, I don't really run that quest for the blade. I run it with people who want the blade, and I go, okay, I'll go along with you. But when I run it for XP or for fun.
That's true. It also is a great quest for XP farming.
Yeah, it's on the daily loop that I go.
Yeah. Every now and then.
I'm in there a lot. Yeah.
All right, so let us take a break. And we'll be back after these commercial messages.
My name's Craig. Meet Kobold. We want you buy crates. Buy crates now. Buy crates for Kobold. Kobold like crates. Smash crates. Great good smashing. You buy crates for smashing. You buy crates for Kobold smashing now. You no wait and buy smash crates for Kobold. Buy many crates, give crates to Kobold. Buy big crates so many Kobolds can smash. You buy crates or we kill you. Thank you. P.S. Buy crates for Kobold.
Sometimes people feel we don't need as many spreadsheets in our lives, but they don't know the story of my friend Cindy. Cindy was a happy, healthy, successful mathematician who did what all of us do. Like us, she'd keep track of how many hours she slept each night. She'd analyze her meal plan, not just by how many pizzas she ate, but even figured out which toppings she preferred by tracking consumption year over year. She even monitored bandwidth usage per week to make sure she was getting her preferred minute of video to megabyte ratio. Then, things changed. We'll never know whether it was drugs, depression, or psychosis. But one day, when we got coffee, she mentioned perhaps she didn't need to chart out the thread count of her pillows by decade. Crazy, right? Pretty soon, she stopped keeping track of her car's miles per gallon. She neglected her list of favorite movies, organized by runtime. Finally, I heard her say, "You know, maybe I can just sleep as long as I want, and wake up whenever I feel like it." First, it was 4 hours one night, 8 the next, then 8 the next, and 12 the day after that. A few months ago, she went to bed and never woke up. I miss my friend Cindy and don't want you to suffer the same fate. Please remember your spreadsheets. They keep you happy, healthy, and sane. Don't believe me? I can prove it. Just check out this pivot table.
This message has been brought to you by the Council for Responsible Spreadsheets. Find out more at conditionalformattingforlife.org. Welcome back. Thank you so much. Everyone hopefully can hear me. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yes.
Yes, good. I've pushed buttons correctly, which is important. Some Easter eggs from Update 38 got released this past week. We basically went around to the creators of the dungeons and said, yo, let us in on some secrets here. So, have you run the Update 38 quests there, Sahba?
No, I have not.
You have not? Oh.
No, because we're still back in Mr. Ravenloft with the
Okay.
damsels.
Well, I don't know if I want to spoil it then. Maybe I should not spoil it for you. But most of this stuff, it will be relatively spoil-free. I'll give you something to look for when you are running.
Okay.
All right. So night falls on Stormreach. It is possible to quiet rioters without hurting them. This will get you additional quest XP. I actually remember day one when Update 38 came out. I was running with a static, like a pug group, and they were like, what are you doing? How did that happen? I was like, yeah, well, you gotta find the guy up there, right? Alright, there are multiple rooftop picnic spots in the quest. Have you found the Kobold This Way graffiti and talked to the character that it leads to? I have not actually done that one yet. I wasn't aware that there was Kobold This Way graffiti that led to an actual character until I read this. And then there is also a thing in the harbor that changes based on your progress in the adventure pack. And the madness of crowds. Have you figured out what appeasing all of the gods does? I have not. That is an Ilya thing, so I'm sure it is extremely complicated.
Like he tells us anything. Like,
yeah, right. Besides Brawn Pits, there is another old friend you can meet in the quest. And there's also a reference to a prominent group of forum posters in the quest. And then in toxic treatment. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
No.
Toxic treatment. There is a Standing Stone Games logo in the quest. And then there's a button. Have you pushed it? Have you found a way to disable the traps after you push it? And there we go. So I'm going to have a link in the show notes to where you can find out more about this. And if you want to, some players have actually kind of provided further information, kind of some answers to these questions. But there are some really neat little Easter eggs in Update 38. The team really got the chance to kind of throw some of that stuff in. And that always makes for a pretty fun series of quests when they get to do that. But all right. DDO store sales for the week. Improve your character. That means 30% off select stat and skill tomes. Basically means everything except for the +8s, because, you know, we just rolled them out and we're not giving them a 30% off just yet. Tomes of Heroic and Epic Learning. The Harper Agent Enhancement Tree. This is all through May 10th. This, as you read today, is the final day to get +20 Hearts of Wood. You get a +5 Heart of Wood for free if you buy a +20, and that's to help those folks who need to swap out 3 classes. It's that little kind of 3-class bug. That's why we give you an extra +5. But that's through May 6th, so that gets shut off on Monday morning. So if you need a +20, you might want to get it now. And then the weekly coupon is a Lesser Treasure Hunter's Elixir. The code LESSTREAS, LESSTREAS, and basically it's like, do you want better loot for free? So you should probably type in
more treasure.
I was thinking the same thing. Who wants less treasure?
I agree. Yeah. I need to talk to all of you who's our the person doing the coupons nowadays and be like, we can come up with some better names, some better codes. Yeah.
2 whole people have said now, more treasure, not less treasure. Got conclusive market research.
Yeah, that's right. That's like, representative of several thousand people. So
Yes.
yeah. All right. In the news, this is the weekend for a recruitment week. It actually goes through Wednesday. So plus 10% XP for every member in your party, not raid group, other than yourself, along with a plus 50% guild renown boost. And this is through May 9th, getting shut off basically first thing on Thursday morning Eastern time. That doesn't include hirelings, but you can get up to 50% XP with a full group. So I like to think of it as the Von 3 weekend or the Von 5 weekend. Which one is you're gonna, but Von 3, this is the Von 3 weekend, or is it the Spies in the House weekend? I'm not sure. But yeah.
Very divisive quest.
Spies in the House?
Yeah, I'm on Team Spies is pretty okay.
Yeah.
Some people are on Team I would rather never do Spies. And some people can actually do Spies, because I just sit at the bottom and wait for people to do it for me. That's my secret.
Also, this might be a good time if you're looking for guild renown in particular to get those sagas done, because that does stack, or that does add. So if you have a plus 50% guild renown boost, and then maybe you feel like chugging 100%, I think is the most we can do for guild renown through the DDO store. So plus how much you get from a saga reward, you'll do very, very well by taking advantage of that. All right. Otherwise, community spotlights. LSD37 has created a guide through Wayloon. This is to find tier 4 and 5 cultural collectibles. If you're a Kenneth crafting person and you need help finding those cultural collectibles, and who doesn't, LSD37 has got a really nice guide. It's really a map that just says, it gives you a nice little loop to do some farming for tier 4 and 5 cultural collectibles if you want to. And then finally, we wrapped up our first session of D&D night on DDO Stream. We are actually working to bring tabletop gaming as well to DDO Stream. And thanks to Kevin Melka and you, Sahba, and a bunch of other folks here too who took part in the pen and paper night. We did 3 Sundays and are hoping to do more of that kind of thing. The response was overwhelmingly positive. I think it was a lot of fun.
That's good.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yep. So hopefully we'll do more of that kind of thing in the future. I would actually hoping at some point to expand it out so it's not just official tabletop streaming, but also maybe, since we have a lot of DDO players who play D&D as well, covering some of y'all in perhaps too. All right, Guild Hall from the Chronicle. Legend of Orion is an open level 200 guild on Orion with no level requirements. Oh, what happened to my... There we go. The foremost rule is respect others and have fun. The guild holds weekend, epic level raids, and low level raids as well. Basically, no requirements to join as long as you're not a jerk. And they are level 200. So, Legends of Orion, not a bad one. The question of the week, if you had to live somewhere in DDO, where would you live? Let's start with you, Sahba.
Where would I live?
If you had to live somewhere in DDO, where would you live?
Come back to me.
All right. Well, how about you, Lynnabel?
That's what I said.
You know that part in Tempest Spine where you look over the edge and it goes peering over the edge? You realize that a fall from this height would be devastating, if not deadly.
Nice.
I want to live right there that first time you hear it. I want to get that on a shirt. Peering over the edge, you realize that a fall from this height would be devastating, if not deadly. It's the best shirt I've ever. Can we sell those?
Is that a little bit like Game of Thrones, though? Isn't it where they had that prison that's at an angle? I mean, what if you fell asleep?
Oh, I haven't.
You know?
I can't even read. Like, you think I read Game of Thrones?
Okay. I would be tempted to say Ataraxia's Haven.
That's a good one.
Nobody,
that was actually
not that many people go there. You're a quick ride away from the big House Kandaric Bank and the airship portals and all the other kind of thing.
There's a sauna.
Yeah, there's a sauna there. Looks like it would be a pretty fun place to hang out. So, DDO's equivalent of a tropical beach.
Oh, my real answer is the portable hole. I'd live there.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, too.
But it's dark.
It's got some spooky reggae, I believe is the exact words that Charles uses for that exact music track. It's on the spooky reggae loop.
That would drive you nuts after a while, though.
I did. It drove him so crazy.
Yeah.
He changed all the music in the game.
Nice. Have you made up your mind, Sahba, where you're going to live in DDO?
Well, I guess 3 Barrel Cove because you have the beach.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's
it's
a pretty
sunny.
nice beach. Yeah. And you might have to deal with the occasional airship bombardment, but other than that, you know.
A pirate airship has been spotted above 3 Barrel Cove. Weaker creatures run for cover.
That means everybody run.
Yeah, for sure. All right, fansite news. DDOcast episode 516 has got the first part of their Update 38 review. I believe after the show here today, we'll be having part 2 that Patrick will add in later. DDO Players News talks dice and vampires. They're talking about some kind of vampire tabletop thing. For those who don't know, DDO Players News focuses on DDO, but the latter, well, kind of middle half of their show also talks about tabletop gaming and board gaming and things that DDO players are interested in. So it's kind of a cool show for that. Band
So,
yeah.
I have a question. Drac mentioned in the last show that there was one of those quests in the new update that had a lot of crazy puzzles stuff that he didn't like, so he hated the quest.
Okay.
Which one was it? So we're putting it on our list because he said, of course, we're going to invite him to do it since he said he hated it.
I'm tempted to say it's the capstone, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Toxic treatment, yep.
Okay. Cool.
And Drac is wrong. What's the quest?
Well, we have... he doesn't like a lot of good quests, so we have to show him the error of his ways.
Bring him into the pit, Reaper Town.
We take him into the pit. He still hates it. I just don't get it.
Right.
He's just incorrect. He's in this wrong. Like, it's factual.
Yeah.
And the Crucible. Who doesn't like the Crucible?
I don't actually know the maze to the Crucible. It's my deepest, darkest secret. I don't know. I just don't know it.
Oh, I know how to run the maze. You know, I stand at a thing, and then someone says, "Hit it."
Exactly. I'm all about just standing at H. That's my. I make a beeline, and I'm like, I'm on a letter, and then other people do stuff, and then I do the traps, and then we leave. It's fantastic.
For me, I actually like the Crucible, and to be fair, I actually do know the maze, but I can't do the swim. I just cannot do that swim section. If it wasn't for the swim section, I'd totally run the Crucible a lot more.
It depends on what character you're running, right?
Well, you'd think.
The swim's fun, but like, what if we just had like a big slide, and that was the whole dungeon was a big slide? Like, I think a slide dungeon or a cooking show, cooking/variety show.
I like the idea of a cooking show.
If you think I'm going to stop, also Spooky Renarm shoots ghosts. I'm not forgetting about that one either.
Well, we got Night Rivals coming up. Maybe we could make it happen.
Did I win my argument against Charles?
Have I mentioned that you need to call it? Have I mentioned that you need to call it the boom stick? The boom stick?
No, you've never mentioned that.
Okay.
Let me put that on the list of things I shouldn't make. Is anything Jerry suggests?
Yeah, probably a wise choice. Yeah. All right, Strimtom, quest on his Renegade Master Maker. He's back from a trip to Vegas. So Strimtom actually has been hosted on DDOcast here too, and I'm hosting him on DDO Stream. He's got a really good show, and I would recommend you check his show out if you get the opportunity. Band VP is doing YouTube videos and is running his 7th life, so if you're looking for high-quality DDO gameplay on YouTube, Band VP is a good choice to check out. Fumbles and Fame is in Korthos. They're starting fresh, but they do pen and paper and other games, and now DDO. So they're kind of a up-and-coming Twitch channel that you might want to check out. Fumbles and Fame. A Very Bad Guild is continuing with Season 2 and Spinner of Shadows, I will warn you. A Very Bad Guild is very funny, but also somewhat profane. So you might want to be a little careful there if you're sensitive about that kind of thing. Mickey writes up her 9th life on Serge. Backlagor has got his latest Friday night stream. Shoemaker's got a wiki talk stuff. Let's see. And we've got a bunch of other things there too. We talked about the Easter eggs for Let's Talk Shop, and then I ran Disciples of Rage on Thelanis. And I'm going to be doing part 2 of that this upcoming week. And we did pretty good. I only died a couple of times. So, not too bad. And I think that's largely going to wrap it up here. Anything you two want to mention?
No, just looking forward to running the new stuff.
Yeah. There's no Ravenloft, which was just the best content in DDO, but they're very, very good quests.
Yeah, no, I really like it. And to be fair, like about the puzzle thing in Disciples of Rage, some of those puzzles you don't actually have to do. There are ways to get around that stuff if you want to. So, yeah. Cooking with kobolds, there we go. This great Stormreach bake-off, I like it. Yeah.
There was the one pun. One of the judges of the cooking show is going to be Gordon Ramsay. You better watch out for that. I'm going to make this in my spare time. You guys hired me, and now I'm going to be in the office. Like, what are you doing? Putting together a cooking show.
You know, if we really were able to raise a bunch of money through April 1st dungeons, then we'd be able to dedicate time to do these things, because the dev team has got ideas. If you start going into kind of quote joke dungeons, we have got some fantastic plans.
But it's just that it DDO cart?
Right. But it's just a matter of, stuff takes too much time to ever actually bring it into fruition. But
it's like, even just like putting together a quest is one thing. Making the quest, like put the deco into the quest, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, right.
Put into a cooking show dungeon. It's a big commitment for a very bad pun about gorgons.
I know. Knockback has long wanted to do a dungeon, and maybe we'll have some parts of it in the future where the story changes. You're in someone's retelling of a story, but the person gets confused during the telling of the story. So it's like, and then you faced off against 6 minotaurs. No, wait a second, they were orcs. No, wait a second, they were beholders. And like it changes in the dungeon, Yeah.
Reminds me of memoirs almost.
Yeah, a little bit.
But with less falling through the floor sometimes. Whenever someone touches anything.
Nice. All right, that is going to wrap up the show. Patrick will be here shortly, probably not live, but on the archive for Update 38 review, Part 2. Thank you very much, Lynnabel, for being here. Thank you very much, Sahba Jade, for being here. And thank you very much for being here on twitch.tv/DDOcast. We'll be back in a minute.
Hello, we are talking about Update 38. This is part 2 of our review show. I'm your host, Patrick. Joining us again this week, we have Evennote.
Hello.
Arkat.
Good evening, everyone.
Hephaestas.
Hey, guys.
And Voodu.
I haven't changed my hoodie from last time.
It's okay. None of us have.
I'm still drinking the same soda.
All right. The last time
I still look like a bear.
Last time we were talking about Update 38 and review started that. We talked about the quests and the loot. This time we're going to take a little bit more look at the classes. There were some major changes to 2 of the classes and some minor ones to Monk. Let's start by talking about the Artificer changes. So they got the new tree, the Renegade Master Maker tree, to kind of flesh out. They have 3 trees now. Welcome to the group. That has, I think,
Yes.
Favorite Soul's the only one now that doesn't have 3 trees, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
I think so.
So we got the Artificer, that tree. Some other stuff got moved around. There's some minor tweaks to the other 2 trees, the Battle Engineer and the Arcano Technician. But mostly the work was on that. We also saw, this is true for both Artificers and Druids, there's some work with some minor changes to the pets, where they are no longer, like them dying is no longer really highly detrimental to you, or stuff like that. Yay. Extra chances, you get 3 chances to raise them now every breast, so it's pretty hard to like completely lose them in general. So some nice changes there. But we'll start with Hephaestas, our resident Artificer expert here. So what do you like? What are kind of things that really stand out to you for the artificer changes? And just kind of what are your thoughts?
So my main character, who is an artificer, is way tankier than he used to be. I always played him in a more classic way, but now I really can kind of shine through that. Artificers finally get a way to get permanent shield, which is fantastic. I mean, why not? I mean, Warlock's had it, so. But there's a lot of great things. Where the class is finally coming into its own from the tabletop into the MMO now. For longest time, a lot of players, myself included, were playing their artificers with 2 rogue levels and just going light armor because evasion's great, and just push in insightful reflex. It's great. But there's a lot more for a melee artificer now, and that I don't know if anyone's seen the animation for the Battle Fist, but it's glorious. It
really
is.
Fantastic. It's very fantastic. They posted it on the forums before it came out.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you haven't, go find it on the forums. It's fantastic. The other awesome things about it are we do have admixture SLAs, which are great because those are so much easier and cheap to toss now. I feel like I was a better healer just because I had SLAs, and that's great. I mean, actually, heck, when we were going through the update 38, I go into the party with we don't have a traditional healer. We're in there in high skulls, and I'm like, it's okay, guys. I'm gonna try out the new new admixtures. It's fine, and we did all right. We did quite all right. It's really fun. Converter's really cool. It's a little finicky. Like if you mess up, you can't use it for another 3 minutes. I really wish they'd change that to a toggle like Crown of Summer. I know Steele said he thinks it's too overpowered, but it's really not. The one part about the tree that I'm really not happy with are the upper cores and then the constructs. The constructs are very, very weak. The only one that's even really worth using, if you don't go tier 5s, is just the warding one for, I mean, +3 saves is really negligible, but if you need to spend something to get somewhere else in the tree, I guess if you are going tier 5s in the tree, you may as well take it, because it's going to stay on like all the time unless you die. But the core 18 and the 20, I still feel they're a bit underwhelming, but they're not without with the cool aspects. Force field for the whole party is pretty cool if you should choose to go capstone. But I don't know. What else what do you guys think about it? Because I could talk about it all day.
I've got a question for you, Hephaestus. What did you think about the 6 second time, the timer, the duration, 6 second duration of those force fields?
Oh, they're definitely too short. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
This is the one that's 95% reduction in damage.
Yeah, I get it's 95. It's basically invulnerability, but 6 seconds is just, if
fast.
That's the whole thing about the class. Yeah. If that's your capstone, make it 10 at the very, very, very least.
It's a really neat idea that they put in there, in that it's a kind of an emergency party button and there's some really interesting applications you can do with that in raids and stuff like that. But at the same time, like it's so short. A lot of those timings and possibilities, the timing becomes really difficult to hit something within 6 seconds of it landing, especially when you consider that a lot of tells that with these special attacks are usually take about 6 seconds to land too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I agree. It should be a little bit longer. What do you think of the one that kind of really piqued my interest was the construct that allows you to repair somebody?
I like that one. I like it a lot because our poor undead friends who don't have anyone but the cleric that goes above and beyond and picks up harm just for them, and they don't know how special they are for that. We now have at least artificers. You better be putting that on your undead friend. I had a guy, actually, it was today or yesterday. I threw that on him, and he was like, "What is this? You can't heal me. I'm undead." I'm like, "Oh yeah, watch me."
You can get some pretty beefy reconstruct on an artificer too, so it can be really effective.
Yeah,
That's really cool. I hadn't thought of that. I don't play with any Pale Masters, so I didn't
Probably don't
even
play with a lot of
realize
Pale
that.
Masters because you probably don't heal them very much. Mr. Druid.
they all
I
die.
can.
I know. But yeah, no, there's some really fun stuff in there. I don't feel like it really radically changed my approach to artificers, but there's a lot of that fun stuff, like we're talking about being able to repair one person in the party really helps out if you're gonna be the main healer and maybe you've got like a tank or something like that. It can really kind of push you over being able to keep them alive a little bit better, and it doesn't affect anyone else's healing on them too, which I think is really nice. And there's some kind of more defensive stuff in there, which I think is really helpful for artificers who were kind of sorely lacking in the defensive options compared to a lot of other classes. So,
Oh yeah.
I'm really looking forward to diving more into those changes with my artificer and playing my artificer a little bit. But sadly, time has not been exactly bad time for me to be able to try like 15 different an artificer and a druid and new quests and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I'll be trying melee out soon to see how that goes, because I really want to try out that battle fist.
The animation alone almost makes me want to go to a melee artificer. It's that good. Anyone else have anything they want to say about artificers?
I have something if
Go for
nobody else does. So, when I first saw the Renegade Master Maker on in the forums, the very first thing that occurred to me that I thought of was, this is Radiant Servant for artificers in a Bladeforged / Warforged party with that regeneration construct enhancement. And I just wanted to know if that is accurate. Does regeneration construct work similar to how that Radiant Servant aura works?
According to what the devs have said, yes. They actually literally said that this is essentially the Radiant Servant aura just repairing.
Yeah, I can answer that. It is. But the cool part is it's actually like 30 minutes. So which is way longer than the Radiant Servant one. So I'd say that's a benefit.
A little bit more of a niche choice, but
For sure.
Although if you can pair it with the one that makes you able to repair one person in your party, which you can use it to a pretty good effect that way as well. So, right, let's talk about the druid changes, which were probably much more significant than artificers, because there were major changes to their forms, the attack speed, the animations, that kind of stuff. Even the emotes were changed for several of the emotes for the bears and the wolves. Mr. Voodu, why don't you take us through some of the changes? What really are you enjoying about the changes, or what stands out to you?
So I can really only talk to the caster druid side.
Sure.
I don't play the others. But I will say I have a couple of guildies that we all did druids last life. I did the caster. I had a guildie do the druid wolf, and another do the bear. And my guildie who did the wolf was a big fan of the old wolf, and seeing the release notes ahead of time, thought this was going to be a huge nerf, was really upset about it, had a really negative attitude going into the changes. I sort of half talked him into, give it a try. Maybe there's some things you don't realize. And he actually really liked the new wolf. And my guildie that played the bear really liked the new bear. So I just want to give those two plugs to those trees. And I'm also really happy that in the bear tree, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that's good for the other trees. So, I spend 16 points in that tree. And I have long been an advocate for druid casters to wear heavy armor, which before we would need to spend a feat, but now if you spend just 11 points in the Nature's Protector tree, then you can get the auto-granted Tier 3 heavy armor proficiency. And in addition, those aren't junk points spent. You get, like, with 11 points, you can get 40 hit points, 27 MRR, 12 PRR, and +2 to all saves, in addition to the heavy armor proficiency. So for 11 action points, it's a pretty nice investment. I was really pleased that we have a new SLA. We have it's Salt Ray, which is like a nice ranged stunning attack. It doesn't do a lot of DPS, but it stuns really well, and you can stun virtually everything but Reapers with it. Undead, golems, like I said, almost everything. And they also moved the SLAs down a tier, which makes Lobby Druid casters more viable to play as casters for those first few levels, whereas prior to Update 38, a lot of casters, it was pretty common for them to run around in wolf form and just melee stuff because your casting power didn't really ramp up until like, level 4 or 5 or so before. So that was really cool. I love that we're a lot more defensive now. Not only do we have the ability to spend points in Nature's Protector tree to get significant defenses there, but we also have the reworking of Elemental Toughness, which doesn't provide 5 DR anymore. Now it provides 1 PRR per Druid level, which stacks with everything. Totally awesome. We also have a new clicky called Winter's Heart that's kind of like an Enlightened Spirit shining through. It's not quite as good because, well, the way it works is you hit it and you get temporary hit points equal to 8 times your Wisdom score. But they only last 30 seconds, so you can't sort of hit it and then hold the next charge. They only last 30 seconds, but it's only a 30-second cooldown, so you can use it pretty often. Great to hit if you see some Reapers, great to hit if you're running to a big group, or even as like an emergency heal in Reaper mode. Obviously there are huge self-healing penalties, but this is a temporary hit point boost, so temporary hit points aren't affected by the self-healing penalties of Reaper mode. So that's a really cool add too. And there's some really cool visuals too.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give props to Torque on this too, because he did a lot of work. I had gotten wind that they were doing the Druid update, and so I asked to get back on the Players Council, and they let me back on for the Druid Pass. And he did a great job of listening to the community. What we first saw in the communities, the Players Council response, and letting him know about all these other bugs and stuff. He did a great job of fitting more than I thought he was going to in, everything from fixing the fact that Creeping Cold conflicted with Nyax Biting Cold and other druids Creeping Colds, fixing that to, adding a really cool new visual effect to the Crown of Summer where you have butterflies floating around your head. So some really nice work done. Like Hephaestus, I could talk about this all night. I'm going to stop here. But I will say that overall, I'm really happy. I feel like I got about 90% of what I wanted. I think on the offensive side, I would have liked them to go a little bit further. Druid casters, and I kept saying this when I was making comments in the Players Council forum, Druid casters are never going to be overpowered. So don't be afraid to go the extra mile here and maybe add a little bit more, because they're never going to be at the cutting edge of what's hot. The power gamers are never going to be playing Druid casters. So I would have liked to have seen maybe a new SLA or a new capstone SLA. And I think the capstone just in general should have been stronger. So that's one disappointment for me, but overall I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, the thing that I think for especially caster druids, right? Even just the wolf druids, because we only had 2 trees before, and you had a wolf tree and a caster tree, and it was really hard to figure out where to spend all your action points. And now even if you're gonna stay as a wolf or a cat or kind of an elemental form caster, the bear tree just provides some. You're talking about you spent 16 points there, and for only 11 points. Well, a lot of people would probably react to that. 11 action points for heavy armor proficiency is a lot of action points, but you had some. You kind of, I feel like, would oftentimes have some to spread around because you didn't really need to go invest in the other tree, depending on what you were already. So. One Anyone else want to jump in on the druid stuff?
I only have one druid, and I've gotten her to level 15 and kind of abandoned her there, so I don't really know a whole lot about them.
I have a single druid. It's a melee druid. It's a bear druid. It's pure melee tank, and the new tree really helps out the tankiness of a bear. So bears are definitely a viable choice. I like what they did with it. I think we talked about this briefly on the last DDOcast, Patrick. It was disappointed that some of the upper tier stuff now requires being in bear form and a shield. I was really hoping that I would be able to play a bear form druid with a two-handed weapon. That would have been pretty sweet. Been doing tons of damage. That would have been pretty cool. But overall, I'm reasonably happy with the new bear tree.
I think one of the things you mentioned about how they're really kind of listening to the community and stuff is the place that I really kind of look and see that the most is the natural fighting feat, which like every time they released the pass on it, it changed. Like it kept changing. Like first it was like there were 5 feats, and everyone was like, "That's a lot of feats for a druid, guys." And they went back to just the one feat line that you can take 3 times and kind of flesh it out. But like every time it had some changes. I think that was kind of a point where I could really look to and say they're really changing things a lot based on what people are saying.
Yeah, they shouldn't have listened about that with the Master Maker constructs.
The one that gave you all those the temporary hit points.
Yeah, well, at least druids get that temporary hit points now.
Yeah, I really was hoping they would. The one that gives you the saves is like +3 to saves.
It's negligible.
Yeah, I mean, I get it from the standpoint that at a certain point, the way you progress your character in the game is those incremental benefits. And +3 saves when you get +3 to saves 15 times, you've got great saves. But I agree with you. I really kind of wish they would have kept the temporary hit point idea, just toned down how many hit points they were giving. I think that'd be a lot better than the save one. But darn. I'd say I haven't got a chance to really dive into remaking my druid, but I'm really looking forward to getting into it, particularly because I can drop the 3 levels of fighter that I was taking for the defensive stance, which was really helpful as a melee, and now being able to invest in the bear tree instead to get some better defenses and kind of keep myself alive a little bit better. So. Anything else you guys want to say about artificers or druids?
I'll make a special mention of one of the criticisms of caster druids is that they didn't really have a lot of acid spells. Like we just had one before. It was just Storm of Vengeance, and now 2 spells have been reworked to be acid spells. One is that Enveloping Swarm, which used to be this like guard that you put on yourself, and it did a meaningless amount of damage to mobs that attacked you. It's now an acid dot that you cast on mobs. And Creeping Doom, which was a poison dot before, an AoE poison dot, is now acid. And so before, one of the criticisms was that with Creeping Doom is that there was no way to boost poison spell power, but now it's acid, you can boost it. So in addition to Creeping Cold and Greater Creeping Cold, which were awesome cold dots that the druid had, now the druid has 2 acid dots on top of that. So you can put 4 dots when you're fighting like a raid boss or something, and they just do massive amounts of damage. It is so awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff there. You can dot away. We didn't really talk about the spell, too many of the spell changes too, because the druid spell list changed a lot.
Oh yeah.
The spells didn't. What you're supposed to get didn't change a lot, but they reworked a lot of the spells. Some of them you mentioned, because Storm of Vengeance got changed too, I think, right?
It scales better now. It didn't scale before, and now it scales. And there's a couple others that scale too. Really nice.
The Salt Ray got a stun, right? Like there's what's the other spells that we haven't mentioned that changed and that really coming.
Roar is really good now. You got the spell. The spell itself wasn't particularly impressive. But there is an enhancement in the bear tree that makes roar a lot better. It's called Savage Roar. It's a tier 3. Enhancement, and I'll just let you read it yourself. But it's got a chance to stun and do sonic damage when the roar goes. So it's pretty good.
Another significant spell change that we haven't mentioned is that the buffs that you can put on yourself when you're in like fire and water elemental form, the Mantle of the Icy Soul and the Anger of the Noonday Sun, which previously was a joke compared to Mantle, but now supposedly, and I haven't personally tested this, but supposedly they're able to make your fire and water spells overcome immunities that target mobs have. So previously, if a mob was like healed by or immune to fire, if you have Anger of the Noonday Sun on, now you can actually do fire damage to it. And the same for the mantle and cold damage. So that's pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool.
We should mention too,
That I thought was pretty nice, yeah.
It's a little bit of a smaller kind of hidden change, very similar for sorcerers, that they changed it, that their enhancement now will casting if you cast a spell on creatures that's immune to that element, they become vulnerable to that element for a short time as well. So they did that kind of across the board to kind of help with some of that stuff, I think. Because if you, which I kind of have mixed feelings about, because I think it's helpful for a lot of those players, but at the same time, like if you're a one-trick pony and you only cast one element, but by the same token, you run into a lich if which are immune to acid and electric. I mean, those are your two primary elements, then you kind of have in trouble. So, all right. Anything else you want to say before we'll close this out and then do a part 3 of our update today and kind of cover the monks and some of the other kind of fringy changes. So thanks everyone for joining us. Next time we'll do part 3 of our review and cover some other stuff we haven't covered yet. If you'd like, I want to thank my guests, Arkat, Hephaestas, Evennote, and Voodu. If you'd like to support the show, you can support the show by visiting DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find previous shows, the show notes, other fun stuff on our website as well. You can find me on social media. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. We generally post all the information about when shows are going to be and stuff like that, if you want to catch the live shows. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can leave us a comment, or you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your tests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.